All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. It is the ESPN Upstate College Football Playoff National Championship halftime show. I am Rob Brown. Joining me right over there, the legendary Mark Ryan from Offsides with Mark Ryan. Appreciate you guys coming.
This is the wrong way. This is the
I know
wrong way.
it takes
over
me
there.
to get it right. Of course, it is. I mean, it is almost 10 o'clock at night. Mark Ryan, I've been here 2 years now, and Eastern time still jacks me up. I don't know if you've gotten used to it yet. But halftime at 10 p.m., I'm getting too old for this crap, man.
Okay, number one, can we stop with this daylight savings BS? I mean, this is the worst idea. Who needs to save electricity anymore? I mean, really, this is what this was originally founded on. I think it's New Mexico is the smartest state in the country. They don't mess with this, or is it Arizona?
Arizona,
one of those two states. Arizona doesn't even mess with this. Brilliant. Who likes the middle of the afternoon, pitch darkness? Who thinks that's cool, man? Who likes 5:30 a.m. It's getting light outside? Who thinks that's cool? But the other thing, Rob, I'll tell you, man, this is such a West Coast bias with this start time. It is such a West Coast bias. And Saturday, I did the show for CBS, and I said, the West Coast doesn't care about this game, and they're completely kowtowing to them with everything they're doing with the day, with the start time, with everything, right? And I had some lady from San Diego get upset with me that said she and tens of her friends would be watching the game on the West Coast, right? It's ridiculous, man. The productivity on the West Coast tomorrow is going to dwarf the productivity on the East Coast, and it's all because of the start of the game. But we are getting football. We are getting a very high level of football. Rob Brown, I have an inclination that whenever we watch football, as much as we want to be professionals and as much as we want to cover something in an unbiased way, I do believe that internally we're rooting for a team. You know what I mean? Who are you rooting for tonight?
I can honestly say, Mark Ryan, and this is not because I'm a professional. This is just more a not SEC guy living in SEC territory. I don't know if I have a favorite. I mean, there is something to me to be said about getting to watch the best that's ever do it and Nick Saban continue to do it. But there's some Yoda, Luke Skywalker, apprentice beats the master element to Kirby being just the second the second Nick Saban assistant behind Jimbo Fisher to steal a win and to do it on this stage. That being said, I don't necessarily think I have a rooting interest so much as I want the game to keep being good. I saw a lot of people earlier saying, what a snoozer, what a boring game. This is why we should have to. I got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. If any other team in the country was playing either one of these two teams tonight, they'd be down 21-3 at this point, just like Cincinnati was, just like Michigan was. These are the best two teams in the country. They have shown it so far, and I'm here for some defensive football. I know we've made a lot about the fact that Alabama's sitting on what? I think Alabama took 10 yards of rushing into the halftime, 26 for Georgia, most of them on the last two possessions of the game, which one of them was in strict garbage time. Give me a good defensive battle before you give me a 42-40 track meet, Mark Ryan, and that's what we're getting out of this so far.
No, I'm with you, Rob. On that, I'm completely with you. I don't like that they're legislating defense out of the game. In 2013, Nick Saban said, "Is this what we want college football to be?" And he could have been like Dabo Swinney's been with the transfer portal. He could have been stubborn and say, "I don't like it, so I'm not really going to take part of it until I have to." But he didn't, and he joined them because he realized unless he joined them, he wasn't going to beat them. But Rob, this is refreshing. Here's what I can tell you: Alabama's better than Georgia. Cincinnati's better than Michigan, and Alabama is better than Georgia. For Alabama to still be winning this game with no Mechie, no Jamison Williams is insane. I'll ask you this question, Rob. If John Mechie and Jamison Williams are healthy and Brock Bowers and Pickens are out for Georgia, what's the score of this game on the reverse? You know what I'm saying? Like if Georgia's without their top two guys catching the football and Alabama has theirs, it's almost like Georgia needs these massive breaks to kind of hang. The yards for the half, 216 for Alabama, 153 for Georgia. Alabama's a better football team. I don't know if they're going to win this game because of the injuries and so on and so forth, but I do think Alabama's the better football team. Rob, my biggest question, the determining factor for this game for me was going to be, could Georgia somehow, with the strength of their defense, could Georgia's defensive difference and the fact that Georgia's more dominant defensively than Alabama, could that more than make up for the dynamic difference of Bryce Young versus Stetson Bennett? And if you can achieve that, you can beat Alabama. I don't think they're achieving that right now, and I have a hard time seeing them achieving that in this game, honestly.
Yeah, I think Alabama grows this score a little bit drive by drive as we go forward. First off, when we saw the first drive out of Stetson Bennett, who just looked out of his element, right? He looked like he was panicked. He looked like he was rushed. Alabama was creating chaos at the line of scrimmage, and Stetson didn't know how to respond to it. Georgia kind of drew up a couple of things to slow the game down, to let Stetson Bennett keep up. The problem is in the way that they were drawing up things to try to slow the game down and get Stetson Bennett more comfortable, they were taking receivers out of the fold, right? They were leaving a running back or they were leaving a tight end back, and it was taking away from options down the field for Stetson Bennett, which is something that I think that he's needed. What I found very interesting about Alabama's defense, if you go back and watch the first half, you're seeing a lot of 5-down linemen, and the linebackers are all over the field, right? Like it's not a traditional 4-3 or even a 5-2. You're seeing 5-down linemen, and you're seeing the linebackers drop off, run up, fake a blitz, move to the outside like they're covering up tight ends. There's nothing that is traditional about what Alabama's doing defensively. And because of that, I don't think Stetson Bennett is able to find his comfort zone, right? They had the one big play to pick it down the field. That really was the only impressive gain for Georgia in the first half. And then they did nothing with it, right? They end up with 3 points off of that. And I think you're going to see more of that. I said going into this week, Mark, that Georgia was going to have to play so aggressively defensively at the line of scrimmage that the cops were waiting to arrest them for assault and battery after the game was over. And that was the only option, was to disrupt Bryce Young. But the difference in these two quarterbacks is that as the game goes on, Bryce Young is settling in and he's seeing the pressure better, and he's hitting his quick outs and he's hitting his quick routes, and it's making Alabama a little bit more comfortable with the football. Stetson Bennett's not. He still looks like he's a little bit deer in the headlights like he was early in the first half. And the longer that goes on, the more opportunity there is for Bama to pop off one of those long touchdown plays we got used to seeing all year. And at this point, I'm kind of convinced that if Bama can open this lead up to 10 points and take away what little bit of run game Georgia is trying to create here, this might get ugly very quickly in the second half. And that's exactly what Nick Saban's looking for.
Here's my verdict, Rob. If any team that has enough talent defensively to take away Georgia's running game and make them one-dimensional, Stetson Bennett is not dynamic enough to beat, right? That's my feeling. Michigan couldn't do that. Nobody else could do that. Georgia has a dominating running game, and they're doing zilch against Alabama. I do think, Rob, Georgia can win this game. I mean, I really do. They've got Pickens and Bowers. Bowers, did you see that play where he's dragging 3 Alabama guys out of bounds? That guy's a true freshman, man. Are you kidding me with this? I mean, that guy's the next Rob Gronkowski, right? 69, right? So, he's the next Rob Gronkowski, that guy. He's unbelievable. Georgia can win this game. They have the playmakers to win this game, and I don't know if Alabama has the playmakers to really open this up. I saw Jamison Williams walking. Why? What's the update on him? Torn ACL, twisted knee, hyperextended knee. Is he coming back? I was watching Nick Saban at halftime. It didn't seem like he was overly optimistic about his return. But what's the diagnosis there? We have none, right?
Yeah, no, we don't yet. I talked to somebody earlier. If you go back and you watch that replay, you can see something in his knee pop, right? When he catches that ball and kind of turns around and get upfield, they had a camera looking straight at him, and you can see something in his knee give way. I talked to a friend of mine who's in and asked her, what the deal is, because I wondered if, okay, maybe is this a sprain? Is it a hyperextension? Is there any chance that he might come back? And she said, no, that looked like a pop ligament, either an ACL or MCL. And that what you'll see out of a lot of guys who have torn ligaments is that they can actually still walk on that injury up until the knee starts to swell around that injury. So she said, I wasn't super surprised to see him walking. to the tent, but we don't have any diagnosis about whether or not he'll come back, which obviously, if he doesn't, Bryce Young has lived by the home run ball this year in some of their toughest games. And now what is effectively maybe your only deep ball home run target is off the field, which is going to force Alabama to shorten up the offense a little bit, which I think plays in to what Georgia is trying to do to create chaos at the line of scrimmage, take the middle of the field away from Bryce Young and make him work the out routes. Georgia had some success with that to kind of stagger Bryce Young a little bit. But like I said, the difference between the two of them is that even in the face of pressure, Bryce Young seems to be getting a little bit more comfortable with those quick outs, whereas Stetson Bennett, it looks to me like he's panicking from the second he gets the football, which is exactly what Alabama wants. So if they have lost their number one big play threat down the field in Jamison Williams, that is absolutely going to play into this, I think, bigger than anything else Alabama's got going on right now.
Yeah, Rob. And I just get this sense here that the dam is going to break at some point. I don't know for which team. I don't know in whose favor. But I get the sense that there is no possible way, with the blows that these two teams are, throwing back and forth, to make this analogous to a boxing match. I think there's going to be a knockout punch at some point, Rob. I think there's going to be and given Alabama's losses offensively, right now this game looks to me very similar for both teams in the sense that if either one of these teams had a 10-point lead, can the other one come back, right? I don't know if Alabama's got enough to come back down 10. I don't know if Georgia, I don't think Georgia has enough to do much of anything down 10. So again, what can that Georgia defense continue to do what it's doing? Can any of these young freshman receivers for Alabama really step up the way that Devontae Smith did with a national championship catch back in 2018? This is your opportunity, man. This is what you've been waiting for, right? About. And there's a precedent for this ahead of you. So it's going to be fascinating to see, man. I'm with you. Like this to me is a great heavyweight fight with undoubtedly the two best teams. Rob, if I said to you right now to win the national championship next year, I'll give you Alabama, Georgia, or Alabama and Georgia, or the field. Who are you taking?
Oh, I got to take Alabama.
You get 128 teams or Alabama and Georgia.
I got to take Alabama, Georgia. I mean, we talked about this earlier. I think maybe I could consider Ohio State a potential contender. I'm interested to see what Freeman does with the official headset on at Notre Dame. But we talked about. In fact, I said this on the Twitter feed, Mark. Even if we had a 12-team playoff this year, this would still be the finals. These would still be the last two teams. These would still be the best two teams. And this is still the game that we would be watching tonight. I don't think anybody else is as balanced on both sides of the football as Alabama and Georgia are. And unfortunately for the rest of college football, whether it's 12 teams or not down the road, I don't know if there's anybody next year that puts the class together that's going to compete with these two teams. And then on top of that, you got two coaches that are obviously well-suited for what they're doing right now. I think Bama and Georgia lead the field coming out of the gate next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a rematch for the SEC championship and the national championship again next year. I wonder what that would do to the college football audience. I actually said earlier today, I think that this is going to be one of the top 3 most watched college football championship games of all time. I think there's a lot of people that are trying to sell us on it's boring. We've already seen this game. We don't want to watch it again. But it's a good competition. It's a good matchup between two very tough teams. I think it's going to be back like when everybody used to say, I'm never watching the NFL again. And then the NFL ratings have slowly went up since then. I think it's the same situation. I wonder what would happen next year if it plays out the same way. But as of today, yeah, I'll take Georgia and Bama over the field like I would a Tiger on Sunday in the Masters in 2008.
I'll tell you what, man. And so this expansion talk, and I know that the meeting with the commissioners was really frustrating to Greg Sankey today. He doesn't like the way that's going. If we determine that the bowl system is important enough to save, and we want to expand the playoff to have a greater number of quote unquote meaningful games, I'm a bowl guy, Rob. They're all meaningful to me. But if these kids, need to be in the playoff in order to feel like it justifies the risk of playing in these games, then I could see expanding it to the 12, right? Have more games that are meaningful. If you do that, Rob, then every single game that is not a playoff game will be totally meaningless, right? If you expand it to 12. But then the matchup this year would have been Georgia versus Pitt. That would have been the 5 versus 12 matchup. You cannot get one of the byes if you didn't win your conference. Georgia would have been the 5 seed against Pitt. How did Michigan versus Georgia look to you? Does anybody want to see Pitt versus Georgia? Well, I'm going to guess 45-6. What would the score of that game have been? It would have been brutal, absolutely brutal.
Well, I mean, I'm on the other side of the token from that. Surprise, surprise. To me, yeah, if it's not one of the final 2 or one of the final 3 games right now, it is meaningless. We had the big conversation about Matt Corral, and I absolutely commend Matt Corral and salute Matt Corral for deciding to play for that game for Ole Miss. Kenny Pickett decides to get out, and I asked on the show because we got a litany of texts from people going, Kenny Pickett should have stayed. He should have finished for a guys, and that's cool. And then I asked one simple question of those people that called in and texted the show. What bowl game did Kenny Pickett play in? What game did Kenny Pickett play in?
Peach Bowl.
Right.
Peach Bowl.
And you know that because it's our job to be the highly intelligent and good-looking guys that we are, Mark Ryan. But the majority of people
but it means something to me, Rob. It means something to me. It means something to me. It means something to that was the best. Pitt football had lost 5 games, 13 seasons in a row. That was a huge deal. And he quit on his team. And Kenneth Walker quit on his team. And together they ruined the damn game, Rob. They ruined the damn game because they weren't there. Okay?
And
so you can say they have a right to quit on
that game.
What's that?
What do they gain other than Mark Ryan's commendation? What do they gain for playing in that game as opposed to risking Kenny Pickett specifically, a first rounder? What does he gain by playing in that game other than a round of applause from a college fan that hasn't watched a Pitt game all year?
Rob, what you gain is being there for your mates, being there for your school, finishing the deal, finishing what you start. Great life lesson, being there for your teammate. Who's to say that Peach Bowl wouldn't be the most meaningful game he's ever plays in his life? I had a guy tweet me today during the show, Rob, Jamison Williams, he just lost himself millions of dollars. Bro, this is what you play for. Are you kidding me? Not everything in life is about money, man. Yeah, not everything in life is about money, man. It's about the experience. It's about the rarity of being in a New Year's Six game if you're Pitt. The Peach Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Orange Bowl, they still mean something to me. These are the biggest bowl games that I grew up watching, man. I had a dream to play in these games when I was a kid. You think I'm going to pass that up? David Pollock said when his last game at Georgia, they were in the Outback Bowl, and it wasn't the bowl that he wanted to be in, but there was never a thought in a million years of missing out on the last opportunity to play with his mates. It's the last chance, man.
And look, I get that. And in an ideal world, all of that's fantastic. All of that is absolutely commendable. And again, I don't insult Matt Corral for deciding to play, and I don't insult Kenny Pickett for deciding not to.
I do.
I don't have a problem. As I pointed out when we played the Kirk Herbstreit comments last week, I heard Kirk and Des going off about, when we were, and that's great. When Desmond Howard finished his senior year, there were like 9 bowl games, or not facetiously, they were like 18 total bowl games. Now there's somewhere in the 40 range, 41 bowl games. Don't tell me that the taxslayer.com Gator Bowl, when I'm watching, in fact, I pointed this out on Twitter, I'm watching Alabama and Georgia come out of the tunnels like it's a freaking rock concert with lasers and smoke and fog and security guys lining the tunnel like it's a Goldberg entrance. And I saw that. And then I go back and watch Shane Beamer get mayonnaise dumped on his head. And I'm like, don't try to convince me that the Duke's Mayo Bowl, no insult to Duke's Mayonnaise, I love you guys, and when you're ready to sponsor the show, just send me the contract. But don't try to convince me the Duke's Mayo Bowl is on the level of what these guys are playing for tonight, or even with the level of what Cincinnati and Michigan played for last weekend. When you're treating this game the way that we're treating it, it's hard for me to get excited about 2 6-6 teams in the Bahamas Bowl to pretend like that's a big deal.
Okay, Rob. So if there were 20 bowls back then, figure out what the best 20 bowls are, and then prioritize playing in those. The Outback Bowl is one of the 20 biggest bowls. Play in it. The Citrus Bowl is one of the best 20 bowls. Play in it. Okay? If you want to say bowls 21 to 42 are meaningless, fine. If you're playing in one of the top 20 bowls, do like Desmond Howard, do like David Pollock, do like Kirk Herbstreit. Honor the commitment you made to your school, your scholarship, your team. Play the damn game. I'm Mark
All
Ryan,
right,
and I approve this message.
Chase here in the comments, swap the coaches. Georgia would be running away with this game. True or false before we get back to kickoff?
What's that?
Chase here in the comments says, swap the coaches. If Nick Saban was coaching Georgia, they'd be running away with this game. True or false?
Yes, that is true. That is 100% true, because he's got the weapons on the outside that Alabama's lost, Rob. I think they'd be running away with it. And it's not just that. It's Alabama plays smart. You know, they play smart football. Georgia is in 1st and 15, 2nd and 20. You know, like Alabama's team is so disciplined. You know how we always say, Rob, about like the BYUs of the world, the Boise States, those are teams that you have to beat. They're not going to beat themselves. Alabama is as well coached as a Kyle Whittingham and Bronco Mendenhall team, but with 4- and 5-star talents, you know, and that's why nobody beats them. Georgia's got every bit the talent that Alabama does. They're not as disciplined. They're not as well coached. They don't know their assignments as well. It's incredible. Do you agree with that, by the way?
No, I absolutely do. I absolutely do, for the exact same reason, as a matter of fact. All right, we are just about underway. Actually, just kicked off. Mark Ryan, 1 minute or less. Prediction for what we see in the second half out of both teams.
Oh, boy, Rob. I am going to go with it's 9-6 right now. 9-6 right now. Georgia's trying to get the ball, get the running game going. I am going to go with 6. Oof. Oh, man. I'm going to go. You ready for this, Rob? I'm going to go 19-16 Alabama.
Wow.
Final score. 19-16 Alabama. What say you?
Lots of field goals. I still expect, Alabama losing the big play threat and J-Mo Williams is a big blow. But at the same time, I think you're going to start to see Alabama develop without that. I think you're going to start to see a lot of crossing patterns. They have already run some crosses at Georgia, caught guys out of position, and I expect Nick Saban pick something on that. I had this a little bit high in scoring. I think I went 31-21 earlier today. Alabama with the win. I think it's maybe a little bit. I think I didn't bet the under, but I wish I would have at this point. That being said, I'm going to take Alabama, although Georgia's got a big first down on the ground here. I'm still going to take Alabama to win this game. I'm going to drop it down, though. I'm going to say 21-14 now, or 21-15, excuse me. 21-15. Georgia gets a couple more field goals. That being said, Mark and I will check back with you after this game is over. We'll have a full rundown with all the statistics and what we saw happen in the second half. Mark Ryan, appreciate it, big dog. We'll talk to you in about 2 hours.
Y'all enjoy the second half. I'll see you soon.
We'll see you then. For Mark Ryan, my name is Rob Brown. We'll see you right back here after the game.